everyone, welcome back to Pajama Crafts where I do crafts in my pajamas. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Sarah. Thank you so much for stopping by. And if you are a returning subscriber, thanks so much for coming back and hanging out with me today. I have 5 summer bee decor DIYs for you guys today. I'm so excited to jump into these DIYs and show you what I created this time. We have 4 Dollar Tree DIYs and 1 thrift flip. So I'm super excited to get into these and show you what we created today. Don't forget, if you enjoyed this video, to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. That really helps to support me. And also leave a comment down below letting me know which one is your favorite project. Now, before we jump into the DIYs, I do want to say that this video is a collab with Lisa Kennedy, the Dollar Mom. If you're not familiar with her channel, she does beautiful farmhouse decor, so make sure you run over to her channel as soon as you're done watching my video. I will have it linked down in the description, and show her some love and let her know that I sent you. If you're coming over from Lisa's channel, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you decide to stick around by hitting that subscribe button. So for our first DIY, we have the thrift flip. This piece of wood I have been reusing so many times. This is probably the third or fourth time that I have painted over this piece of wood. It's not actual wood, it's like chipboard or something. I thought it would be really cool to make this waterproof so it could go outside on the porch if I wanted to. And then next I'm just using a contact paper stencil that I made with my Cricut. This is using some contact paper from Walmart. I will leave the kind that I use linked in the description. Some of you have been asking me for the link lately, so I will link that down below. It's very inexpensive. The only reason I don't like to use the Dollar Tree one is because sometimes it leaves a sticky residue on my project. And then I also use the clear contact paper as a transfer tape. So I wanted this to kind of look like a honeycomb, and that's what I'm doing here in the corner. I will leave all of my SVG files linked in the description that I possibly can that I've used in this video so that you guys can recreate these DIYs if you want to using those SVG files. So I'm just using all outdoor paint on this sign so it can be waterproof to go outside. The technique I use when I'm stenciling is just to use a flat foam brush and stipple the paint on, which basically means you're bouncing the brush up and down. I just put a tiny bit on the brush so that nothing bleeds underneath. Now, I did notice with this outdoor paint that it did bleed a little bit. Once I distress everything, I think it's not too noticeable. So I decided to keep this one pretty simple and just write "be happy." I'm using a Posca paint pen for the lines to show where the bee was flying. I just kind of started the lines and they just went where they went. That's the only part that I'm not 100% sure I love on this sign, but I don't know. I think it looks okay. I will leave the Posca paint pens link down below. I really need to get affiliate links. I'm just so busy, but I feel like I should be making some commission as much as I talk about these Posca paint pens. But that's just how much I love them. They're really good quality. They're my favorite ones I found so far. So next I just took a few different colors for distressing, a dark brown, and then I did use a little bit of a mustardy color on the edges as well, and I think that just kind of brought it together. It looks more like the color of a honeycomb to me, and I think it just turned out really beautiful. Like I said, I'm not 100% sure I like the kind of just the pattern I did with the lines where they crisscross. I'm not sure I love that. But overall, I really do like how the sign turned out. Let me know what you think about it down below. Moving on to the next DIY, I have this little piece from Dollar Tree and I just flipped it over to use the back. That way it can be reversible or I can remove the galvanized piece later to use. But I just went ahead and used some Waverly White chalk paint on that top part and then the ink colored chalk paint for the bees and a little bit of yellow from my outdoor paint from Magic Fly. Next, I also have some little Scrabble letters from Magic Fly, and I just decided to write "Be kind" on this one. I hot glued these right on there when I had them the way that I wanted them on my sign. I would definitely suggest wood glue. I was just out of wood glue, so I used hot glue for video purposes. But as you can see, when I was distressing it, one already had fallen off. So just make sure you do use a good glue that's going to hold your wood together because hot glue is definitely not it. I just did a light distressing with some truffle Waverly chalk paint, and that was all I did for this one. I think it turned out really, really cute. Moving on to our next DIY, I have this little Valentine's box canvas thingy from Dollar Tree. It had this little arrow on it, so I decided to remove it. I did it very carefully because I did want to use it for my DIY. Part of the wood came off the back, but I was able to scrape that off pretty easily with like a putty knife, and when I went to glue it back on, it was just fine. So once I had everything scraped off of there, I just went ahead and covered the whole entire thing with my ink Waverly chalk paint. Now I wanted to paint my arrow yellow, but because it's such a bright red, I decided to paint it black first just to cover up all of that color. That way it wouldn't take so many coats when I paint the arrow yellow. Now while I was waiting for that arrow to dry, I just took some white Waverly chalk paint and stenciled on my stencil that I made on my Cricut. Like I said, I will have those linked down in the description, all the SVG files that I use. And of course, you don't need a Cricut to do any of these projects. You can always use regular stencils, you can freehand it, you can do transfer paper. There's so many different methods you can use. No reason not to do these projects just because you don't have a Cricut. So once I glued on my little arrow, I just decided to distress everything. I used the brown color on the white words and then a little bit of white on the black part so that the whole thing would look really nice and distressed, and I absolutely love how it turned out. For our next project, we have one of these hanging mason jar signs from Dollar Tree. I have this from last summer, I believe. I just went ahead and removed the little hanging part, and then I'm using some more of that pretty yellow color from those outdoor paints from Magic Fly. Now, these outdoor paints are self-sealing, which is really nice, but they are pretty thin, so I had to do several coats on this to make sure that it was completely covered. I will leave the link to Magic Fly down below if I can. They reached out to me and offered to send me these supplies, and then after they did, I never heard back from them. So I will just try to link them if I can. But honestly, the paint was not my favorite that I've used. So I just created another cute little stencil with my Cricut, and I stippled on some black paint. Once that was all dry, I decided to add a little bit of dimension with my Truffle Waverly chalk paint, just going and distressing around the edges of my mason jar and then adding a few lines here and there for some dimension to make it look a little bit more realistic. Next, I added some little lines to make it look like my bee was flying, and just added some jute at the top and a flower, and that was all I did for this one. I think it turned out really cute. This one is my favorite out of all 5 projects, but I just have these 4 canvases from Dollar Tree. I use a box cutter to cut around the edges of the canvas, and it's pretty easy to just go ahead and pull the canvas right off. Just be careful because we're going to be doing a reverse canvas and you can tear these if you're not careful. So I just made sure to be very careful when I was pulling it off. I don't worry about taking out the staples. That's going to be on the back and it's no big deal to me. Next, I painted all 4 of them with that same yellow outdoor paint. I just made sure to get into every single little nook and cranny. While those frames were drying, I took some distress ink and went over all of the insides of my canvases just to make them look a little bit more dingy and old and distressed, and I really like this technique. There's definitely a lot of other techniques that you can do. This one's just super quick and easy for me and no mess, so I really like it, and it doesn't really need any drying time either, as opposed to like coffee or tea staining, things like that. Next, I just cut off around the edges of the canvases so that they would fit nicely back onto my frame. Once I had everything lined up the way I wanted it to be, I just went ahead and used my stapler on the back and the front to hold this together. You don't have to do the front if you don't want to. You could use wood glue in between the frames and just staple the back, or just wood glue and no staples. You don't really need the staples, it just makes it really easy and it's super convenient. But I just put staples on the front as well because I like the rustic look, and my wood glue, like I said, was gone. Next, I stapled all of my canvases to the back of my frame. Next, I made some really big letter stencils with my Cricut and started stippling on that paint. I usually don't have a problem with bleeding on fabric, even though you do have to use extra paint because it does absorb a lot. I'm using some more Waverly paint in the color Truffle to distress this. I love the color Truffle for distressing. I think it's a perfect natural color, and I made sure to go along every edge on the inside, the outside, and especially in those corners. Lastly, I used a Sharpie to make the lines from where my bee was flying. My Posca paint pen did not work on this surface. After all, it is fabric, so it's a little bit hard to get the paint to come out on here. So a Sharpie worked just fine, and I think it turned out so adorable. I love this one. It's one of my favorites I've done. So that'll do it for this video. Like I said, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more DIYs like these. If you made it to the end of this video, leave a bee emoji down in the comments so that I know. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, I do have all of my social media linked down in the description as well. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook. I have a sharing group where you can show all of your beautiful creations. I love to see what you guys are working on. I will do a big giveaway when I get to 20,000 subscribers. I'm getting really close, so I'm so excited to do that for you guys. So make sure you share this video with your friends and family if you think they would like it too. Don't forget, I do have Lisa's video linked down in the description. Go and show her some love and tell her that I sent you. I know you're going to love everything that she has to share over there. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye! We'll take her over to the sidewalk and then it'll be easier to push her, okay?
Okay.
Okay. It's a little tough.
Yeah, so you go. It's not fluid anymore.
Is it so much easier? That's so fast.
Okay, baby. So you